Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. I have something that is hopefully going to be a little bit special for you guys today. I'm playing against the Brigadier General Fires. It's my first time playing against him and my first time playing this deck, so I have brought with me a Commonwealth Moto deck, which maybe if you have seen a couple of recent games between me and Haymaker will sound familiar. It's a specialty of his and a deck that he plays quite well, and my whole intention was to go into Foxtrot, take Foxtrot off the bat, defend a little bit with the Tornado F3, and hopefully don't lose Charlie too quickly. And it turns out that my opponent here playing Baltic, and by the looks of it, by the looks of this veterancy and some of the units inside, Baltic Moto. So this is a match of Moto versus Moto, Commonwealth versus Baltic. Baltic, of course, being a much more common Moto pick, and my F3 was sent after some of these helicopters here just because I didn't see an answering ASF, but we get a little bit drunk there with the pilots, not really great, and this was really interesting. So yeah, I've kind of skipped over the meat of a little bit of action here, but the reason is identifying your opponent's opener is so critical, and I find it really critical when you're playing Moto especially. And here we have Fires going into Bravo pretty heavily, and most notably not going all that heavily into Charlie, which I did expect him to do. I don't know if he stopped just because of the tornado or what it was, but he's capping in Delta. I only have one CV at start, and I have SAS and some Pathfinders going into Charlie, and I don't quite know, maybe he thought that I was going to spawn rush him here. It's certainly understandable, there's a lot of individual units, but those units are Rover Wombats, so they're not really meant for that sort of thing, and, well, I'm not really going to do that here, but it's a reasonable fear, and so I want to point that out, is I think Fires might have thought I was about to spawn push him, and if I gave off that impression, very much my apologies there, so you know, I wanted a Fox, I wanted all of it to myself from the beginning, and I wanted to basically make him attack into me here with losses while I do Moto things around the rest of the map. So here we have Milans, we have Pathfinders, the Milan 2's actually used all 6, gotten a bunch of kills, mostly on some cheap stuff, but it's some nice return on investment. I need to get better at resupplying them, but I tend to find whenever I put a resupply vehicle in Bravo, it just dies. So, like, it'll get mortared, it'll get artillery, it'll get bombed even sometimes if people are trying to clear this out. So I sort of view that as a little bit of a one and done, and I'll screen other places if need be, unless it looks very, very safe, which it definitely did not. So here, a little bit of a misplay. I didn't quite know what to do with all the Rover Wombats. I probably purchased a couple too many, but, you know, first time playing the deck, as I said. And this game goes to 27 minutes in-game time. We have a lot of that left, and a lot happens in between. But I do just want to say, if you do like this sort of thing, please don't hesitate to leave a like, share, subscribe. All that YouTuber nonsense. Been a little while since I've asked for it, but you know, it really does make a difference. If you guys give likes on these videos, the number of views triples even inside of a day or two, so it really does help me out quite a lot. And well, I want to keep doing this. I want to do Wargame videos for quite a while, and well, it does jeez, goodness gracious, now I've messed up the ask even. But it does help keep things going smoothly. So, Wolverine taking out, thankfully, a little bit of a recon from Fires, and I think he did, yeah, this is what I was saying, I think he intended to take things going to Bravo and keep going, and then didn't. And I didn't really have all that much here, so I have a couple of Saxons and Bisons that were the transports for these guys, just sort of making sure that there's not too much going on there, but Pathfinders individually aren't the best combatants necessarily, and Yakri are quite good, although, I don't know, like the Pathfinders should beat them, but not with morale problems and having to deal with the vehicle beforehand. Like, it was just a little bit of a messy situation, so I'm trying to make sure now, okay, I've got Foxtrot. If I can keep Charlie, that's a win, right, because I cap Echo Fox, I cap Charlie, even if I lose Bravo, which isn't a guarantee, because I do have this little foothold here, then Delta is not enough. So Red needs to push me in here, and the Super Puma probably carrying Iroquois Yakri is a little bit not appreciated, but I have some stuff really far forward. So we have Vickers, we have another Vickers, we have Commandos 90, and the T-55M Pions were probably the single biggest pain in my ass this whole game. So I was basically trying to figure out a way to deal with them. I thought maybe the Vickers, if I got nice shots in, like we get one right there, but that was not exactly a Pion, that was a transport. So a little bit unfortunate. Repositioning here because I don't want to sit and stay and just be in one place. Wolverines actually did impress me in double stacks. People mock these vehicles. I mean, they are a little bit goofy, right? And a 70-point buy for a double stack is not the world's cheapest thing, but you know, we get in, we take down a Sokol at 65 points right there. We'd already gotten a kill on a Recon Heli beforehand. These guys have paid for themselves, and you know, I figure, okay, we'll get that, we'll move, we'll be fine. Sort of stick and move, and then if I build up a lot in Charlie, I was really debating, do I go over into Delta now? Do I attack in here? I thought surely if my opponent opened into Bravo, then he must have also opened significantly into Delta, and as it turns out, I was dead wrong. So this was really interesting. It's part of the reason why I wanted to record this game and have a really quick turnaround time on it, because this happened at the time of recording, maybe about, well, I don't know, inside of a day. So he doesn't have any defenses here. Really not much. I mean, the KT and the Mi-17 with some recon makes this open ground pretty deadly, but there really wasn't that much. If I had taken even what I had and gone through a little bit of fire supports, maybe two or three wombats and some infantry, I could have definitely established myself in Delta, unless something like a Hawk Bomber or other sorts of tools arrived, which they very well could. So that's not, yeah, I mean, that could easily have been a thing that happened. I'm kind of lucky it didn't. So at this point, I need to stop the +2 tick. Whenever your opponent's taking +2 on you, that is a really big issue. It needs to get resolved as soon as possible, and I've waited a little bit long here to do it. I mean, down 150 points, that's 10 minutes of +1. That's really a lot, and it's going to be even more before I get my last C in place. The reason that I'm not too concerned about it, though, at least not at the moment, is because basically my intention was, if there's a lull, and we've gotten some decent picks during the lull, mind you, then I might have the space to do that. And here's my biggest problem, my biggest conundrum when I play Moto. Do I push? Do I just try and win the game in 5 minutes, have a nice little 5-minute adventure here? Or do I try to you know, get the nice position, make my opponent attack into me, which is very much how I prefer to play the game, just sort of, you know, it's why I like Scandi Mech, it's why I like some slower unspec decks like Landjut that very much like to take their time and take their tempo, and goodness gracious, that was triple 5HE mortar. Yeah, that's a lot. That was quite a bit. Didn't actually kill the Pathfinders though, which is a little bit goofy, because, I mean, it's landing in, yeah, I mean, that volley wasn't great, but, So, that right there is 120 points, and I look at that and I think to myself, okay, if my opponent's going to buy 120 points trying to kill some stuff, he might kill a couple things with it, maybe. And yeah, my commandos definitely took a bit of a pounding because I didn't move them quickly enough. But that could be a CV for me. These Oslov Cs are 125 points, or I can take command infantry and an Mi-17 for 135, but that triple stack of mortars basically says, okay, I bought this, he bought that, that's fine. The rest of what's on the board is still what's on the board, and we basically wipe out a little over a minute's worth of income because, well, we both spent it in identifiable ways. He sees me cap here, I see him start 3 mortars, and I know those are 40 points because it's Baltic and it's going to be the prom mortar there. So I also know he has eyes on the Rover Wombat. He's probably going to be attacking in from that direction up through the woods, and so I kind of wanted, I figured at this point, let's clear things out here. Let's retake this section, because I don't want him to have a staging ground. If Red can get a staging ground in here, it's so deadly. Ooh, that was really goofy. Okay, so Erequisiakai, I brought in Commandos 90, and these guys die so fast, it's absurd. Holy cow, Commandos 90 with Moto veterancy, just smack, man. Like that. Goodness gracious. I think I spent the next 7, or well, not 7, but certainly 4 or 5 minutes looking, because I couldn't believe that the Iroquois were dead that quickly. I thought to myself, oh, he must have turned off the tertiary. I sent the tornado over here just to see where the Iroquois were, if they fired a missile at it. Like, all of this stuff, and the Commandos 90, they wiped them off the face of the map so fast I didn't even have time to see it. So, yeah, very much loving this unit. For 20 points, quite solid. People will probably comment, yeah, I mean, it doesn't have the best anti-tank. The Gustav M2 is okay, but the low rate of fire on it compared to some of the higher-end ones, like the Apolos, you definitely do feel that as time goes on. So a bit of a mixed bag. And now, here's when we make up for that tick. So I get an Oslov C. My opponent's only answer to this is to cap in Bravo. If he caps in Bravo, I can try capping in Foxtrot. The really important thing now, though, is now I've committed. We're 11 minutes in, nearly. And instead of pushing in to take all of Delta and get a +2 there, instead of pushing in to try and take Bravo, because I did see a lot of that stuff come in at the beginning of the game, now I've committed to Foxtrot basically being my win condition, right? And that is a dangerous thing. It's closer to his spawn than mine. There haven't been a ton of pushes lately. We've had a little bit of positional gameplay in the last 5 or 6 or so minutes of this game. And that could well be an issue. Because if we look here, I have a Rover Wombat, double Scimitar, Milan 2, Wolverine, Vickers. I don't have any infantry here, which is not great, because my opponent very well could be bringing in some pretty nice stuff in there. Karten Yakari, Ranako Yakari, anything like that, standard Yakari even, would be more than enough to push through here and make it difficult. So that was definitely a point of concern, and I really wanted to spend points there. Probably should have before I got the Oslov C, but getting that +1 tick, this is where taking so long to cap my own 2-pointer really did hurt, because I wouldn't have felt the pressure to get that Oslov C in position if I wasn't behind by more than 10 minutes of +1 tick. So that definitely was very uncomfortable, forced a couple of buys, and was nice tempo from Fires. Like, this guy is not a Brigadier General for nothing, right? And Baltic Moto is a very strong deck. So I think quite possibly Commonwealth Moto put him a little bit in the wrong foot, but yeah, elements of surprise will only get you so far. So my Pathfinders, fending off some Sapperly Stromovi, which is part of why I don't like those guys. For 20-point shock, Flame Infantry, they don't tend to necessarily perform up to what you would expect out of them when compared to regular training Sapperly. So, but I mean, it was interesting to see it. He actually brought it in MI-17, which I'm pretty sure that's a really oddball choice. So at this point, I've spent a fair number of points back between Echo and Alpha trying to make sure that there wasn't any other sneaking going on. Wombats are just tripwire units here, which isn't great because I like to use these for pushes, but I was convinced that I couldn't have killed the Iroquois, so they were probably back here and going around. God, that single unit just gets inside your head so well. It really is just kind of incredible. So at this point, Fires is going around. I decided, you know, I need a bit more punch. So we're going to have double Leopard AS1 Plus coming out, and I don't like this take in on-spec. 8 frontal armor is so incredibly fragile. This thing dies to more than you would believe. I mean, 8 front, that dies to, what, 22 AP? So most ATGMs are going to be killing it, other than things like Chumot, but that's one shot and it's dead, right? So you get 0 time here. Then we have Renako, we have regular Yakari, nicely coordinated push from Fires with his troops going in, and if I lose Foxtrot, that's going to be a hard game, right? I will have to push all the way back in here. I'll have to redo the work that I did in the first couple of minutes, and it's very clear that that Fires has been spending his points on the ground where I spent them for that additional CV, at least so far. So, TD55, BMP 1KT, double Charioteer, a nice flexible group there, not reliant on infantry, and this was really cool. So ATGM, well, no line of sight because of Fires microing this, starting a literal fire here between my Milan team and his tank, which was really goofy to see. It was a little unexpected. That, by the way, right there, Gazkopa, I didn't see this during the game because of the push that was going on here. So if you ever do want to do this sort of thing where you get a CV going and you think it might be maybe spotted for a second or two, pull it in when you got other stuff going on, because if you can make your opponent, like my screen probably looks like this at the moment, and I saw the red dot on the mini-map, but that could be anything, right? So if I was playing farther out, then I see it. So that's lesson 1, play farther out. Lesson 2, try and trick your opponent and deny them information, and it'll go a lot better for you. So at this point, Lynx 3, trying to move over here, discourage the Pion and the Maddie, and I needed to get infantry up and going forward, so we have Commandos 90 just in time here to hopefully retake that position. But this is one of the things where I don't think I necessarily respected my opponent's deck pick as much as I should. Not to say that I don't respect Baltic Moto, but more of I forgot at this point some of the tools I was dealing with. So my Lynx 3 is being used to zone, and that's all well and good, until and unless I run my Lynx 3 too close to something like Iroquois, which I won't spot from as far away. So these scimitars would spot vehicles that are this close, but what they don't see is a single unit of Iroquois, and that's about to come into play. So Commando's clearing things out, Wolverine's a little bit awkwardly positioned here. We get the kill on the Maddie, that makes it worth it, even if I lose the Vickers, even if I lose a Scimitar or two, and I decide, let's go over here and go for it, but we only spot those Iroquois after they've fired one. They did hit, and of course, they do land the second one as well. So if they had missed, I would have been fine. If my, oh, what's it called? Oh geez. Yeah, Tornado F3 lost as well. This was probably the beginning of a crisis point, I was thinking, because although I do have infantry up here, we have cleared out the Renako Yakari, things like that. very much not a lot protecting this side. So we did kill the Erkozekri, but there's a Pion, and quite frankly, I think if my opponent had taken that Pion and just thrown it forward, I'm not sure I would have had much that I could do outside of buying something like a GR7 for emergency pressure relief. I mean, yeah, we could fend off the Sokol just fine, but I have nothing there. I don't have any ATGMs. I have an HQ section that's walking up because I had thought, for some odd reason, that I'd handle that well enough to be able to bring in something else, and I don't know, it was definitely a little bit rough. So at this point I was thinking, okay, well, let's make sure all of our bases are covered defensively. I need to bring out ATGMs, which are already on their way, for here, so that I can zone this section out. He probably assumed that I had them. And this was really nice. So this spot up on the high ground, if you get into the town here, I very much recommend you try and go for this with some sort of main tank gun, because look at that. If those Cart and Yakari were in here, I'm in trouble. As it is, they're not getting out alive. I mean, well, at least that guy's not. Well, okay, fine. I think he actually died in the fire there. Oh, that's goofy. So, anyway, Fires here is trying to push me out of Bravo. My Milan team, not enough. Pathfinder's not enough. We did fend off some of these Saporzi, but, yeah, MI-17, more Saporzi, and regular Yakari, it's just a little bit too much there. So I've now lost Bravo completely. My win condition is still ticking in Foxtrot because, yeah, behind by still more than 100 points here, which is very much an uncomfortable place to be, and we fend off the single damage group of Carton that got in very quickly. So, I don't know, I figured, let's go up here, let's cap, let's try and make this into a good thing for us. I lost my tool to get rid of the Hawk 51 because of overflying into enemy radar AA. Not exactly smart, not exactly the best plan. And one thing too, I am being a little bit sneaky there up there on the top, we'll return to that, but I feel like I didn't play this properly, which is really weird, right? Because I'm fighting against Brigadier General, it's 17 minutes in, it could be going worse, it could be going better, of course, but it could be going worse. And I feel like I fundamentally didn't play this properly. And it's like, I don't know, it's a hell of a thing to say. Like, it was a very easy thing for me to say this when I was a sergeant, and I just straight up didn't play things properly. But now, I mean, if it's working, is it improper? And sometimes I think the answer is still yes, because it could be working a lot better. And there's sort of this interplay between, you know, your opponent's trying to win too, and you're going to lose things, and not everything's going to be ideal. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. That famous quote. But, oh, by the way, this is why I really don't like Hawk Bombers. And you're probably going to think, oh, because the SAS are dead? No. Because they're not dead. Oh, it's so goofy. All I had to do was just be ever so slightly not where he expected, and that's all she wrote. But, I don't know, back to what I was saying, I think there's sometimes people have in their heads, oh, I'm going to do this plan and it'll go perfectly, I'll win the game in the first 2 minutes, and my opponent will surrender by minute 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, and that's because I'll just go right through. And I think there are players who are capable of doing this, very much so. I've played against some of them, it's very unpleasant. But I think most of the time it's not necessarily going to be like that, because if my player is of equal skill and he's trying to win as well, then, you know, in theory it's a bit of a coin toss. It could come down to map, it could come down to deck, it could come down to my tank missing 3 80% shots, which has happened before, 3 of them in a row. It's very annoying, but it does happen. So at this point we get revenge on that Hawk, but that bomber is coming in, and I very nearly lost this HQ section. And you might be wondering why I didn't put it back here. And the reason is, I thought that this was the obvious spot, and he'd probably bomb that. As it stands, yeah, maybe not the best idea, but we have a Muncot 1, we're going to be resupplying here, and then I think Fires didn't quite know how to attack into this, right? So I have garrison units along the upper road, I have Commandos 90 up here, I have the ability to spot some things over here, at least on their way in, including SAS, which can kill quite a bit. This side of the map, around sort of the flanking stuff Moto likes to do, was sort of shut down pretty well, I think. One thing I'll pat myself on the back for there, because that is not always a guarantee. And then Gurkhas, Rover Wombats, Scimitars, my Wolverine should have been up and forward already, it's not. But we get some good contact there, and then this was really rough, so this is one of those dangerous Pions that I had to watch out for. And the combination of a Lynx AH7 and a Milan 2 cleaned that up, 75-point kill. And by now, even with that ASF lost, I'm very much feeling like I'm trading well. So, That was definitely a nice thing. Harrier GR7 to kill a Super Puma is maybe a little bit of an overinvestment, but this was also just to see, okay, where's that ASF? Can I get it to come in here? I'd like for it to come in here. And we have, of course, the sneakiness going around the back. This felt a little bit deserved because the Iroquois attempt through the woods here. It is a common thing to do when you're playing against Baltic Moto to have them sneak like that, but I felt that's fine. Well, if I could get a decap here, that's alright. I don't need it, because 20 minutes at +1, this is well in the bag, but it would speed things up a little bit, and the SBS are going to say, okay, well this died to a KT, we won't go that way, we're going to go toward golf, see what we can do, even just to cause a couple of inconveniences. Now one thing here, I have in this deck, I have Highlanders 90, 20-point regular infantry with the Erics. In unspec, I hate this unit, but right there, it would have killed a Pion, and that would have solved a lot of my problems. And the fact that I didn't use that unit, that tool, correctly, very much hurt. Another thing too, my Wombats are overextending. They should be just pulling back, waiting for the next push. Gurkhas are here. These guys don't need to be thrown away. Even 10 points at a time, it adds up. It adds up quite a bit. I mean, how many games have you guys had? Oh, Voodoo, by the way, got a kill. That is a dead Osa AKM. And then this was really goofy. So my Harrier GR7, this guy shoots a missile, and it misses. So I'm pulling back, I'm trying to get out of the range of his short-range missiles here, and we do, and even though he lands the long range, my Tornado F3 is ready to intercept. So this was a bit of a risky bait there, but it was a bait. So I pull back, I make sure he can't shoot those high-accuracy short ranges, we come in, we get enough points to send the F3, we send the F3. I didn't have enough points when it was back here, but you do the math on how many points you have saved and how much tick there's going to be, how much income you're going to get, pull that in, take down that plane, and that's really nice return on investment. Plus I have an ASF up, plus I have a strike plane with the Harrier GR7, which is a very cozy place to be. So at this point we have defenses in Charlie, we have defenses in Fox and Echo. Well, it could be better, and I'm buying a little bit to make it better here in the front part of Foxtrot, and we're ticking +1, and this is a really tough spot because now we've even retaken this section of town here, and Fires basically has to find a way to breach the gap. So what do I expect? This is always something I like to ask myself during the game, and I don't always have the space to, I don't always have the presence of mind to be frank. But I was asking myself now, okay, if I'm Fires, what do I do? And the only thing I could think of is that he tries to get into my 2-point. Because he pushed this out, and it worked, but then I took it back. He's attacked into Foxtrot any number of times, and it hasn't really worked, and we're 17 minutes left in this game now, so we're 24 minutes in. Oh, geez, 23 minutes in, I can do math. Apologies, that was a Hawk Bomber, by the way. So he needs something big, and he needs it now, and the best way to do that on Punch Bowl is to get a breakthrough into Charlie, which he very much could do. He can stage it from the top part of Bravo, he can stage it from anywhere in Delta, but I had Commandos, more Pathfinders, SAS, more Pathfinders, Highlanders 90, Milan team, all this sort of stuff here. It definitely felt like something I could prevent for long enough to fix the problem. Keep in mind, I have F111Cs, I have the Harrier GR7 I can buy, and more stuff there, and I thought, okay, well if he's going to build up for something like this, the best thing I can do is apply pressure elsewhere, and you know, I've brought in more reinforcements here. These probably should have been Highlanders 90, they weren't, I needed that range that I didn't have, and I thought, okay, well let's build another push. I took about 110, 120 points earlier, we retook this section, so let's do it again. Let's see if I can get into the town here with good fighting infantry with something like Gurkhas. That could be very, very deadly if I get in close CQC. And if I can get anywhere close to his CV in Bravo, that will do two things. One, if he does get into my 2-point, all of a sudden it's less deadly. And two, if I can decap here, even if he gets into my 2-point, right, so let's say he neutralizes this but doesn't kill my CV. So now he's ticking +1. But I neutralize Bravo, that's 0-0. I cap Bravo, that's +1. So it's another alternate potential win condition. That's sort of what I was looking for here and what I was hoping to get. Now, the SBS, a lot of people will put their command vehicle or command infantry in this town. Unfortunately didn't get it, but we did deny one of those, and this was really heartbreaking. That's an ITO 90, and if I had just waited and hadn't killed that mortar, we would have definitely gotten that pick. But as it is, ITO 90 does get out, he now sees me, he's going to be shooting over, my SAS sort of got caught out by a recon unit, that happens. But here it comes. So there's units in the open here. Fires is definitely microing back in Golf. but this is my indication that there's something going on, and we're going to buy immediately there. So reinforcements are going to go up into Charlie, and we're going to do the push into Bravo simultaneously. If it works, great. If it doesn't, okay, fine. Not ideal, but okay, fine. One of the big problems here again is lack of anti-air, and this is actually why I put a second card of SAS in my deck after this, because I really like them for anti-helicopter work, and if they're walking up with my Gurkhas, they still have 2275 meter range, and the Mi-17's rocket pods are matching that, which means alone, the SAS might get stunned and die, but they wouldn't be alone in a case like this, and they would definitely be able to prevent. I mean, my Wolverines have 2450, but they're just out of position. There's a lot going on. I was trying to get the Harrier GR7 up and take out that Pion, deny my opponent's ability to see and some of his fire support, and because of that, unfortunately, these Commandos 90 are about to get absolutely smacked. They're only 20 points each, but still it's 40 points. That's why the Mi-17s are so good. So less than one whole volley, and they're dead. But I do have Gurkhas into the town. They're not anywhere approaching healthy. Should have healed them up before. But this is definitely a good place to be. I mean, we're still causing havoc back here. Fires' push is in a little bit of desperation mode. My Commandos 90 have killed 1 and now 2 KTs. That's 40 points worth of return, which right there pays for themselves. And they're still damaging these infantry. This was sort of a, it's a Moto v Moto last push, and well, I'm up on points and up on kills. And this is just making it worse, because we have the Wolverines finally in position here. Gurkhas will chew through Raskas and Korima, and I was really hoping to catch the Ranko Yekuri in the open. We don't, but it was a very close thing, so we actually move up there. Oh, yeah, we did. Look at that. Yeah, I think the helicopter crash damaged them as well, which is a little bit of bad luck there. But I was wondering in the game how these guys got down to 3 strength so quickly. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I have more SAS, I have some, I believe, Commandos 90 going up as well, and we'll hold that part of Charlie, and that's sort of going to be the beginning of the end. So, well played to my opponent. Fires here. Unexpected Brigadier General in deck testing is always a good place to be, I suppose, but, I wanted to try it out, and it definitely could have gone better, but it could have gone worse as well. So, that's going to be the game, 2185 to 1730. And it looks like 15 points of own kills there from Fires somehow. Probably a bomb, Hawk Bomb or something like that. Standout units. Honestly, the Wombats did alright. I don't like using units like that because, the Wombat is an exception for Recoil's Rifle Jeeps. I feel a little bit cheesy doing Moto openers with it. But it's part of the deck, it's part of how it's supposed to be played, so there it is. SAS did very, very well. Mi-17, Carton, Hawk 51. Couldn't have asked for better off those guys. Actually, 2 Hawk 51 bombers. And really, the Gurkhas did amazingly well in infantry to infantry fights. Very impressed with those guys indeed. So that's what we've got for you guys today. Thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.